Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadkamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Satam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणे गुरुवे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्द माधवं कृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वरं गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। बोल। Thank you everyone for joining. Grateful to each and every one of you for joining. Hare Krishna, Mrindra Prabhu, thank you for joining. Hema Mataji, Mama, Herbe Prabhu, Rekha Mataji, Avni Vedi, and Sheetal Mataji. Let's get started. We'll start with our verses. Next verses. I will not discuss last verses or do the summary. I think you can hear the last classes or read the verses. Let's get to the next one. So last class we did intelligence and determination in 3 modes, and now Krishna is moving on to the next aspect of our life, which is very important, called happiness in 3 modes. So Bhagavad Gita 18.36, please recite after me. Sukham tvaidānim trividham Sukham tvaidānim trividham Shrinu me bhartarshava Shrinu me bhartarshava Abhyasadram te yatra Abhyasadram te yatra Dukhantam cha nigacchati Dukhantam cha nigacchati. Let's read all the 4 verses, then we'll read them together. 18.37. Yattad agre visham iva. Yattad agre visham iva. Pariname amritopamam. Pariname amritopamam. Tat sukham satvikam proktam. Tat sukham satvikam proktam. Atma buddhi prasadajam. Atma buddhi prasadajam. 18.38. Vishay indriya samyogat. Vishay indriya samyogat. Yattad agre amritopamam. Yattad agre amritopamam. Pariname visham iva. Pariname visham iva. Tat sukham rajasam smritam. Tat sukham rajasam smritam. One more. Actually, we can do 2 more. 18.39. Yad agre chanubandhe cha. Yad agre chanubandhe cha. Sukham mohanam atmana. Sukham mohanam atmana. Nidralasya pramadotham. निद्रालस्य
Nidralasya
प्रमादोत्थं
pramadotam
तत्तामसम् उदारितम्
tattamasa
उदारितम्
udharitam
18.40 ना तद् अस्ति पृथिव्यां वा ना तदस्ति
नातदस्ति
पृथिव्यां वा
पृथिव्यां वा
दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः दिवि
दिवि
देवेषु
देवेषु वा
va
पुनः
puna
सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं सत्वं
सत्त्वं
sattvam
प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तम्
prakritiर्jairmuktam
यद् एभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः यद्
यद्देवी
एभिः स्यात्
yaddevi
त्रिभिर्गुणैः. We both. So we read 18.36 to 40. So that's 5 verses. Can 5 devotees please take turns to read one translation each? Yes, Vedi, please go ahead. You can just take turns. You don't have to raise hand.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Text 36. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the 3 kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Haribol.
Very good. Please keep going.
Text 37. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Hare Krishna.
That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be in the nature of passion.
Hare Krishna. Text 39. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Haribol.
One more. Can someone read one more? Amrinder
Yeah.
Prabhu, you want to read?
Okay, I will take it. So, text 40, there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in higher planetary system, which is freed from these 3 modes born of material nature. Haribol.
Very good. Okay, so very, very important verses. In 5 verses, Krishna is talking about happiness. So let's break these down a little bit and then we'll discuss. So 18.36, Krishna says, this is just an introductory verse where he's saying that there are 3 types of happiness, just like anything else that we read. Renunciation was of 3 types, knowledge was of 3 types, action was of 3 types, worker were of 3 types, intelligence was of 3 types, determination was of 3 types. So now he's saying that even happiness is of 3 types. And remember, he's talking about a conditioned soul. Conditioned soul means an embodied living entity or a baddh jeev, जिसने body को accept किया है, जो not a liberated soul, not a pure devotee of the Lord, but a conditioned soul who's conditioned by this material world, who's stuck in this body. So what kind of happiness can he enjoy? Let me tell you about them. So he's going to describe those. So this is the introductory verse, but in this verse, Prabhupada has mentioned that mostly the happiness that we experience in this world is through sense gratification, through sense enjoyment, right? And that, so sense enjoyment basically means, you know, that we have 5 senses. Everybody knows that, right? We have our skin through which we touch, our ears through which we hear, our eyes through which we see or sight, through nose we smell, and through tongue we taste, right? So touch, hearing, smell, sight, and taste. These 5 are the 5 senses. And when these 5 senses come in contact with the 5 sense objects, which are all material, the sense organs are material because they're part of this body, right? And the sense objects with which the sense organs are interacting are also material. जैसे कि स्पर्श करना, स्पर्श शब्द रस गंध रूप, है ना? किसी फॉर्म के साथ हमारा eyes engage करती हैं through sight, right? We look at a roop or form. So that is sense object. So a form is a sense object. रूप इज अ सेंस ऑब्जेक्ट. कोई स्मेल आती है, गंध आती है, कोई एरोमा आती है, गुड स्मेल, बैड स्मेल, उसके साथ हमारा नोज इंटरैक्ट करता है थ्रू स्मेल, that is called that gandh is a sense object. Rasa, something we taste, right? So rasa is also a sense object. Shabda, that we hear in through our ears, that we engage in hearing a sound that we hear, is sense object. Shabda is a sense object. And sparsha, like that we have 5 sense objects. So when our sense organs interact with these sense objects, the two material things interacting, the body feels some kind of pleasure or some kind of comfort, which is mostly described happiness in this world, right? But Prabhupada is condemning this type of sense gratification. He's saying this type of sense gratification is like repetition of the same thing. And he's quoting this very beautiful, actually this verse comes in 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that this is very repetitive. This is chewing the chewed. He's quoting it here. He chews the chewed. You've heard this verse very famously, comes from Prahlad Maharaj, right? Matirna Krishne parta swato va mito vipadde griha vritanam adanta gobir vishatam tamishram punah पुनश्चर्विताचर्वनानाम. पुनः पुनश्चर्विताचर्वनानाम. चर रहे हैं, बार बार च्यू कर रहे हैं, चर रहे हैं. जैसे जानवर चरता है, जानवर चरते रहते हैं, एक ही चीज घास फूस मुंह में डाल के, they keep chewing it, right? They keep, जैसे chewing gum च्यू करते रहते हैं, right? जबकि उसका टेस्ट भी चला गया, तब भी उसको च्यू करते रहते हैं. So sense gratification is like chewing the chewed, something that has already been chewed so much that the nectar is gone out of it. जैसे कि chewing gum है, उसमें शुरू में chew करते हैं तो कुछ रसा आता है, right? But it is very temporary. Once you have chewed it enough, that rasa is gone. But people still keep chewing the chewed. So this chewing the chewed is mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj in 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam very, very famously. So this is what we are doing lifetime after lifetime. Each life, every chapter of our existence, we basically just keep enjoying, trying to enjoy this sense gratification. And we think that this is the real enjoyment, this is the real happiness, real pleasure. So repetition of the same thing. जैसे गन्ने को भी ऐसे होता है ना, शुगर केन को भी चूसते हैं, पहले तो शुगर निकलती है, नेक्टर निकलता है ना, लेकिन बाद में वो उसमें से कुछ निकलना बंद हो जाता है, but still people keep chewing it. So that is the nature of sense gratification, that it is very repetitive, it is very temporary pleasure, and actually it is not very helpful, it is not very deep, it is very superficial, it is very fleeting sense of pleasure only, not a very deep happiness. So that's what Prabhupada is describing in this particular purport. But then Krishna starts describing the 3 types of happiness in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. तो पहले सात्विक सुख क्या होता है? सात्विक सुख. तो सुख के बारे में बात करने से पहले I want to talk about the word sukh and dukh. Some of you have heard this before. I've talked about this before in classes. लेकिन let me share this for the new people here. ये बहुत ही अच्छा concept है, and I think everybody should know this if you don't. So I'm going to share a word document. So word sukha क्योंकि 3 बार verses में आ रहा है, 3-4 verses में आ रहा है. So let's understand this word sukha and dukha. Okay. हिंदी में आप इसको एक बार सोच के, मैं इसको हिंदी में नहीं लिख सकती यहाँ पे, लेकिन सोच के देखिए. इट इज कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ सु प्लस ख, राइट? इन हिंदी ख वर्ड आता है दोनों में, सुख में भी और दुख में भी ख आता है. तो ख का मीनिंग कौन बताएगा? कृष्णा हैज यूज्ड द वर्ड ख मेनी टाइम्स इन भगवद गीता. ख वर्ड को कृष्णा ने बाय इटसेल्फ यूज किया है. हु नोज दिस और हु रिमेंबर्स दिस कॉन्सेप्ट? ख का क्या मीनिंग है? शब्द खे. Krishna says in one verse in chapter 7, Shabda Khe, Kha का क्या मतलब है वहां पे?
Is it space, Mataji? Ether?
Yes, Mataji. Kha means ether or space. Perfect. Thank you so much. Kha means ether or space. Shabda Khe. He says कि I am the Shabda in the space. मतलब I am the sound that exists in the space. The word Om, I am, right? So he says, I am the Shabda Khe. So Kha word he uses several times. Kha means space. So जब हमारे आसपास की space, हमारे around जो space है, ईथर है, जो हमारी अराउंड सिचुएशन है, जब वो सु होती है, मतलब अच्छी होती है, सु मतलब अच्छा होना, तो हम उसको बोलते हैं सुखा। और जब वो स्पेस हमारे अराउंड, चाहे कोई सिचुएशन है, कोई लोग हैं, कोई कुछ भी है, सर्कमस्टेंसेस हैं, जब हमारे लिविंग एंटिटी सोल के अराउंड स्पेस बुरी होती है, तो हम उसको बोलते हैं दु प्लस ख, दुखा। मतलब कि हमारे आसपास की स्पेस अच्छी नहीं है, हमारी सिचुएशन अच्छी नहीं है, हमारी बॉडी अच्छी नहीं है, लिविंग एंटिटी ने जो भी कुछ इस मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में, जिस सिचुएशन में वो भी पड़ा हुआ है, जिस सिचुएशन में, जिस स्पेस में, जिस ईथर में वो है, वो स्पेस में कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, चाहे इस बॉडी में प्रॉब्लम हो, चाहे उसके सराउंडिंग एलिमेंट्स में, वेदर इट्स द पीपल अराउंड हिम, circumstances around him is not very congenial, it's disturbing. So when the space around him is disturbing space, it's called dukha. When the space around him is comfortable, it is called sukha. Okay, so this is all that sukh and dukh is. I wanted to clarify this. So this is called happiness in this world. इसको हम happiness बोलते हैं। जब हम कंफर्टेबल स्पेस में होते हैं, हमारी बॉडी हेल्दी है, हमारे पास इनफ मनी है, हमारे पास इनफ रिलेशनशिप ठीक ठाक हैं, कोई हमें कुछ गलत नहीं बोल रहा, लाइक आवर स्पेस अराउंड अस इज गुड, राइट, इट्स प्लेजरेबल, देन दैट इज कॉल्ड हैप्पीनेस. लेकिन so this happiness, this sukha and dukha is Krishna going to talk about. This has nothing to do with spiritual happiness. This is this, so happiness you can say is material. This is, we will discuss material happiness or sukha and dukha for now in these few verses. Then we will talk about the spiritual happiness, which is not sukha or dukha, which is anand, and there is no dukha there. So sukha ka counterpart, sukh ka counterpart dukh ho sakta hai, kyunki in material world, you understood from the last classes, there is duality, right? There is dvandva. In material world, everything has two aspects. हर किसी के दो aspects हैं, है ना? हर coin के दो sides हैं. There are always two sides to everything in material world. That is called dualities. तो क्योंकि हर चीज इस मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में द्वंद्व में है, इसीलिए जो खुशी भी है वो सुख या दुख होती है. लेकिन स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड में कोई द्वंद्व नहीं होता, इसलिए देयर इज नो दुखा. इसलिए दुखा वाला, इस आनंद का कोई काउंटर पार्ट वर्ड है ही नहीं. व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट आनंद, देयर इज नो लाइक दु आनंद, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. आनंद इज आनंद. सो इट इज अ वेरी डीप bliss. It is a very fulfilling, very deeply satisfying, gratifying, very deeply rooted, grounded position, which is called spiritual happiness or anand. इसको हम bliss बोलते हैं. Coincidentally, Lord Ram का मतलब भी आनंद होता है, bliss होता है, right? That which gives you unlimited आनंद. और spiritual happiness या आनंद unlimited ही होता है. It is not temporary. It is not flickering or fleeting. So we will talk about the nature of spiritual happiness in the end, but for now Krishna is talking about this material world is conditioned soul ki situation. Conditioned soul is in this material world, so we are talking about material happiness, we are talking about sukha and dukha. So let's take that verse again. So this is the concept I wanted to understand. We should know the definition of sukha before we tackle the three types of sukha. So then Krishna says, that which in the beginning may be just like poison, agre visham iva, कि जो अग्रे मतलब in the beginning विष के जैसा है, विषम इवा, right? जो विष के जैसा है, जो शुरू में विष के जैसे होता है, like poison, but जिसका परिणाम और जिसका the consequence, the final conclusion, the end of that is like अमृतोपमम. उपमा बोलते हैं ना, उपमा करना किसी के साथ कंपैरिजन, जिसकी कंपैरिजन अमृत से की जा सकती है. अमृत प्लस उपमा इज अमृतोपमम. तो जिसका परिणाम कैन बी कंपेयर्ड टू द नेक्टर और अमृत is called the sukha in mode of goodness or sattvic sukha. So which begins like poison, okay, but which ends as nectar, whose consequence, whose ultimate position is nectarian, that is sattvic sukha. And such sukha can lead to, this position can lead to atma buddhi. Atma buddhi matlab self realization. This can awaken a person to self realization. Okay, so this person is still on a very high platform. Okay, he's on a very high platform. Again, mode of goodness is not spiritual, it is material, but in material world, this is the highest type of happiness that is possible. And this person is congenial, conducive for self realization. तो इसका क्या मतलब है? Let's understand this. The beginning is like poison, but end is like nectar. Can somebody give some examples? कि कोई ऐसा endeavor, कोई ऐसा action जो शुरू में होता है जिसमें बहुत poisonous लगता है, बहुत difficulty लगती है, लेकिन जिसका end result बहुत sweet मिलता है. ऐसे क्या examples come to mind? Yes, Vedi.
In the churning of the milk ocean, Shivji he took the poison so that the rest could get the nectar when it came up.
Okay.
Like literal example.
Literal example. Yeah. So you have to, so churning of the ocean seems like a very daunting task. You have to churn the ocean. इतना बड़ा हम छोटे से pot को तो churn करने में जान निकल जाती है ऐसे करने में. इतने बड़े ocean को churn करना very, very daunting task. Who will take up this task? Only somebody very, very high platform demigods and demons can take up this task. Okay. So they take up this task and it seems very hard. So something that is very hard in the beginning, right? Something that you don't feel like doing. जैसे कि practical example can be like जैसे studies करना, right? कि आपका एग्जाम आ रहा है, 5 दिन में एग्जाम है, तो पढ़ना, लेकिन बिल्कुल मन नहीं कर रहा पढ़ने का. It's easier to watch TV. It's very hard. इससे बेहतर मुझे जहर दे दो. It's poisonous. I cannot study. And, everybody else is going to watch TV and going for something or a party, but I'm stuck here studying. But then you spend that time, you studied really hard. It seemed very hard to do that in the beginning, very daunting task to convince your mind to study, to sit down and study. But then in the end, you felt very satisfied because you knew things. Now you were able to answer questions. You were able to get good grades. Your parents were pleased with you because of how you were studying. Your teacher was pleased with you. You were pleased with yourself that you did this hard work. So in the end, it was good, right? It was good. So this is like a practical example, something that is very daunting in the beginning, that is very difficult to undertake in the beginning, but the end result is good. Can somebody give more practical examples, like from our real life, things that may seem very poisonous, very hard in the beginning?
Yeah, I can think of like farmers sowing the seed, right? So when a farmer sow a seed of like anything, you can see of rice or something, it's not that easy task. It takes a lot of steps to bring that to become a, like first it's paddy and then it's become rice. There are a lot of process involved in it, and then we eat that nectar or we eat that, and then we feel
Yeah.
happy with that. So yeah, that is another example. Or in your backyard, you're putting a flower plant. I mean, from seed, you consider how many steps you take, and when the flower comes out, you see and feel happy about that. So
Very good. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. So farming or growing flowers or crops, very daunting task because you have to dig and you have to get your hands dirty and you have to put fertilizer and water and slow process, and takes a while to get the result. But when the result comes, it's so satisfying. It's a deeper sense of gratification and fulfillment, right? Similarly, let's say exercise. Exercise can be hard. I don't feel like exercising. It's easy to just be laying in the bed and not do anything, right? Just get fat. It's okay to get fat, but I don't feel like exercising. Just keep eating, right? But when you start exercising, you feel good. You're more awake. You're more aware. You are very active. You are very. You're not tired. You're not aching. You lose weight, right? So many things, you look good, so many things happen with that. But in the beginning it seems very daunting. I don't want to go exercise, I don't want to go run or go to gym or something. It seems daunting, but in the end, so anything that is more deeply gratifying in this world basically takes a little extra hard work, right? Just getting up in the morning can be very hard, because you feel like just keep sleeping, just keep hitting the snooze button and keep sleeping. But if once you wake up, and you start chanting the names of the Lord, or some people will go and exercise, or they'll start their day early, you actually feel good. You accomplish so much when you start your day early. You can plan the whole day, and you can get so much done, and it feels very more satisfying when you go to bed that night, right? Because you were able to accomplish various aspects of your life by waking up early. So like that, so many things that seem very daunting in the beginning, but actually they're more helpful if you really undertake the task, gives a deeper sense of satisfaction, right? So that kind of happiness, Krishna is saying, which may taste like poison in the beginning, very hard to begin, but once you accomplish it, it's actually nectar in the end. Those type of endeavors, those type of activities bring more deeper sense of more genuine satisfaction and fulfillment into the conditioned living entity. So this is called sattvic sukham, right? Sattvic sukham. So any type of discipline, जो भी हम चीजें discipline करके अपने आप को करते हैं, जैसे whether he said fasting, yes, fasting may seem daunting, लेकिन you feel good, your health is better. But we've already discussed the benefits of fasting in another class, so I won't go into that. But so many things seem very hard to undertake, but they are better for you all the way around. So those are called sattvic sukha. And when you follow these kind of things, because these type of activities take some discipline, right? जैसे waking up in the morning, या फिर कुछ gardening करना, Prabhuji quoted gardening या farming. So these type of activities, exercise karna, they take more discipline of the mind, body, and intelligence, right? So when somebody is disciplined like that, that person can awaken to self-realization, right? So इसलिए we see that so many people that are in mode of goodness actually come to the path of self-realization because they're already on a very disciplined path. तो जो अपनी material life में, भौतिक जगत में जो discipline follow कर पाते हैं, then they are able to follow discipline in a spiritual path also, right? Because they know what is good for them. They are not looking at the temporary, small term, short term things. They're not small-minded people. They're not looking at short term gains. Short term gains को spiritual language में बोलते हैं prayas. They're not looking for prayas. They're looking for shreyas, the long term benefit. तो हमें कई बार short term difficulties लेनी पड़ती हैं to get a long term benefit. जो स्मॉल माइंडेड पीपल होते हैं, जिनकी इंटेलिजेंस ज्यादा कंट्रोल में नहीं होती, ज्यादा कल्टिवेटेड नहीं होती, माइंड कंट्रोल में नहीं होता, दे आर नॉट वेरी डिसिप्लिन, दे लुक एट ओनली शॉर्ट टर्म गेन्स, दे आर नॉट वेरी मच कंसर्न विद द लॉन्ग टर्म गेन्स, दे लुक फॉर शॉर्ट टर्म बेनिफिट्स. जैसे अभी आप लोग आ रहे हो भगवद गीता की क्लास में, यू आर स्पेंडिंग 1 to 2 hours, राइट? यू डूइंग सम अदर थिंग्स आल्सो. शॉर्ट टर्म में लगता है कोई खास फायदा नहीं हो रहा, but slowly your consciousness is changing by investing this time, right? Slowly the seva bhav is coming, slowly the hankering to know Krishna is coming, slowly you are getting to know Krishna, slowly the hankering is coming to eat more and more prasadam. So like that, slowly you are changing, and so you are cultivating your knowledge. So that is all, very, very high platform. And so people that are on a path of discipline in their material life can actually take to this path of self-realization, which takes even more discipline. So already जब थोड़ा discipline follow करते हैं, तो ज़्यादा discipline को भी वो undertake कर पाते हैं. They can carry on that path very nicely. So this is the sattvic sukh. Let's do couple others, then we will take some reflections. अब इसका उल्टा बोला है Krishna ने. The next verse में he's speaking completely opposite to the first one. He's saying in mode of passion, in Rajasic Sukham, what happens? Vishaya Indriya Samyoga. So Vishaya means sense object. Indriya means sense organ. We already talked about the engagement of sense organs with the sense object. So when there is combination or engagement of the sense organs with the sense object, that feels like Amrit in the beginning. Agre Amritokmam. Agre means in the beginning it feels like nectar. But Parinam Visham Iva. But the conclusion, the end of such an engagement is vish-like, is poison-like. So this can be poisonous in the end. So in the beginning, when sense organs engage with sense objects, meaning sense gratification, feels very good in the beginning, but in the end it is poison, then that is the nature of Rajasic Sukh. Sukham Rajasam. So people that engage in sense gratification, just satisfying the senses is their happiness, then this is called Rajasic Sukh. And we already talked about this, ki Rajasic Sukh, or the one that comes from satisfying the senses, is very temporary. It is fleeting. It gives you just small pleasure related to the body on the bodily level, but in the end, it is a source of misery. In the end, it brings karma, You get entangled in this material world. You are agitating your senses, so you are more likely to get bodies again and again. You will keep getting body because you're agitating your senses so much, and ultimately you will suffer the results. And these type of happinesses that come from sense gratification are not very long lasting, and they are not only long lasting, they can even bring distress. जैसे कि example आता है, मान लो किसी को छोले भटूरे खाने का शौक है, ठीक है? Let's say I give you two छोले भटूरे, ठीक है? You ate it. Then I bring you, since you like to eat it, 5 more छोले भटूरे. Then you eat it, ठीक है? मुझे बहुत शौक है. Then I bring you 10 more plates of छोले भटूरे. Now, in the end, what is the food that you're going to hate the most? Chole bhature. So this is the type of sense, this is what happens with sense gratification. Ki too much ho jaye, to bhi problem hai. Or kisi, and so it can bring, it is not a source of, neither it is a source of long lasting happiness, and it is not ever increasing. This is what I wanted to say. It is not ever increasing. Spiritual happiness is ever increasing. मतलब एवर इंक्रीजिंग ऐसा होना चाहिए कि अगर मैं और छोले भटूरे खाते रहूं, then I should keep feeling happiness. But my happiness is coming to an end after eating 20 plates of chole bhatura. So this means that it is not ever increasing. Jabki when we engage in, now compare this to a spiritual happiness, when you engage in spiritual activities, they are ever increasing. जब आपने, and compare this to your Bhagavad Gita reading, when you started reading, you had to make an effort to attend the class, kuch samajh nahi aa raha, I feel bored, I don't want to attend, or when you were learning the verses. But in the long run, now do you feel more attached? You want to learn? It is ever increasing pleasure. You want to attend classes, you want to sing these songs, right? So it is like, I want to do more, not like chole bhature ki nahi, ho gaya, bas ho gaya. This is something that you want to keep doing more and more. Right? So that is the nature of spiritual happiness, that it keeps increasing, and it gives you more and more bliss as you keep doing more and more, compared to these type of sense gratifications, which is not only they lose taste, chewing the chewed, right? They lose taste in the very big, after a little bit they lose the taste. 2-3 खा के पेट भर जाएगा छोले भटूरे, then you lose the taste. Secondly, they entangle you. You don't know how that chola bhature is going to sit with you. It may spoil your stomach. You may develop some problem, right? You may throw up after eating. You don't know. Okay? Third, it is not ever increasing. It is not something that is going to last for a very long time. And you cannot keep doing it for a very long time. And by agitating your senses too much, you are just getting more and more entangled in this material world. So that is the Rajasic Sukha. Visham Iva in the end. जिसका परिणाम विष के जैसा होता है in the end. Okay, let's do next one. Tamasic Sukha also. Tamasic Sukha, okay, that happiness which is blind to self-realization. So these are the people, they don't want to do anything. If you want to teach them some spiritual knowledge, some Bhagavad Gita, or not even spiritual, but something good, something helpful for them, they will be blind to that, right? So they are deluded from the beginning to the end, and they are mostly concerned with just inactivity, like not doing anything, sleepiness, laziness, nidra, alasya, pramad. So this is no kind of happiness. This only brings distress from beginning to end. So these people will be, इसको तामसिक सुख बोल सकते हो, या you can just say dukha. Basically, this is dukha, because they are not engaging in anything valuable, anything useful. They're just wasting their time, their life, and they're not doing anything beneficial for themselves or for others. So this is in mode of ignorance, and this cannot bring any pleasure at all. Then in the next verse, Krishna says, so there is every being that exists in this material world, whether it's a demigod, whether it's somebody living on any higher planetary systems, they are bound by these 3 modes of material nature. So nobody is free from these 3 modes of material nature. So he says everyone is under the control of these 3 modes. So they experience happiness in these 3 aspects. And mostly लोगों का क्या है, we have talked about this before also, we are not following any pure mode. We are not controlled by any particular guna of Prakriti. We are controlled by all the three different chains at different points of our life, in different times of the day, different phases of our life. We are controlled by the different modes. So right now we are controlled by all three modes. Sometimes we feel tamasic sukha, or basically dukha. Sometimes we feel rajasic sukha, where we are enjoying our senses, and sometimes we are practicing very high values and very strong principles and very good conduct, and that is a deeper level of happiness, which is the in mode of goodness. So we are fluctuating between all the three modes. So Krishna says nobody is free from these three modes. So this is the verses, but then let's discuss a little bit more about various types of happiness. Let's see any realizations from anybody. Any realizations, questions, and I'll discuss a little bit more about the happiness.
Yeah, I have, Mataji, I have a question about conditioned soul. So I'm not very sure what do you mean by conditioned soul here. Initially, I heard like it is the human being soul, or the soul we have, that is conditioned soul. So is it like all human beings having the conditioned souls, or it is like the soul who is like more spiritual or something? That's I want to understand more on that part.
Sure. Yes, Prabhuji, nice question. So conditioning का मतलब होता है, I don't know if you've heard, in science we use the word conditioning. जैसे कि एक conditioning का मतलब होता है कि हम कोई चीज बार बार करते रहते हैं, और we develop these samskaras or these impressions, and we keep doing those things over and over again. We develop this conditioning, बोलते हैं कि एक nature develop हो जाती है. तो conditioned soul का मतलब है ऐसी soul जो बार बार इस दुनिया में आती रहती है, that is stuck in the cycle of birth and death, that is engaging with this material world in every life, so that it has become conditioned by this material world. जैसे कि कोई सोने की ring है, let's say golden ring, it falls into the mud, और उसके ऊपर mud लग गई. Now the golden ring is covered by the mud. ठीक है? Similarly, when a spiritual being, a living entity, the soul, जो हम सभी souls हैं, हम इस दुनिया में बार बार आने से ये सोचने लगते हैं कि हम ये बॉडी हैं, हम ये प्रकृति हैं, हम इस प्रकृति का पार्ट हैं. जब हम ये सोचने लगते हैं, then that is called a conditioned soul. It's a बद्ध जीवा. It's a बद्ध जीवा मतलब जो इस दुनिया में फंसी हुई है, इस दुनिया में bound है. This is not a liberated soul. So this is not a pure devotee, like you were saying. This is not somebody who's on the platform of liberation. This is a conditioned, stuck soul who keeps accepting one body after another, who keeps thinking that it is contaminated, just like the ring is thinking it is contaminated. It is, इसका ring का color golden है, लेकिन वो सोच रही है मेरा color ये dark black brown है जो mud का color है. ऐसे हम सोच रहे हैं कि हम इस प्रकृति का हिस्सा हैं, जबकि हम प्रकृति का नहीं, हम उस आध्यात्मिक जगत का हिस्सा हैं. We are part of the spiritual world. We are part and parcel of the Lord. We are spiritual entities. We are not material. We are not made of matter. But we start thinking we are this body and we are made of this matter. We are made of these 5 elements, these 5 senses. All these are us. जब हम ये सोचने लगते हैं, तो that jiva is called a conditioned soul. It is an embodied living entity जो body में फंसी हुई है, और वो बार-बार bodies लेती रहती है. इसमें इससे difficult concept ये है कि liberated souls भी रहते हैं इस दुनिया में, लेकिन वो इस दुनिया में सिर्फ हमारे भले के लिए आते हैं. So उनके बारे में discuss नहीं करेंगे. Majority jivas, when Krishna is talking in Bhagavad Gita, is talking about conditioned souls, or the ones that are stuck here. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yeah, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, Haribol. Let's. Anybody else has any question, realizations? If not, I'll launch into the discussion about happiness. So थोड़ा सा discuss करते हैं. So हमने देखा कि happiness in this word is sukha या dukha, right? Kha means space. मतलब हमारी surrounding space कैसी है? So first of all, first point to understand that everybody is seeking happiness, no matter who it is, whether it is animal, हम लोग हैं, कोई भी है, and whatever position they may be, ठीक है, everybody seeking happiness, whatever you do. जैसे आप लोग इस क्लास में आए, you are seeking happiness, right? You're seeking some pleasure. जो लोग क्लास में नहीं आए, they are also seeking happiness. They are doing something else that's giving them happiness, right? कोई happiness, हम कुछ shopping करने जाते हैं because we want happiness. We wear some nice clothes because that makes us feel happy. We engage in some activity. We are watching TV, which gives us happiness. We are reading a book, gives us happiness, right? Anything that we do gives us happiness. उसके लिए ही हम सब कुछ करते हैं. Even it is said, कोई व्यक्ति suicide भी करता है, तो वो भी for happiness, कि मुझे इस दुनिया में इतना दुख मिल रहा है, for the relief from this dukha, I'll get some sukha if I just finish this body, right? That is also in search of happiness. Everybody is searching happiness. But the key problem in this search of happiness, in this concept of sukha and dukha, is that we are searching for happiness outside of us, in the space, in the kha. Mataji bola na, kha is space. We are searching for happiness outside of us. So we are looking outwards. तो ये जो आउटवर्ड सर्च है, इसके लिए एक वर्ड आता है संस्कृत में, इसको बोलते हैं मृग तृष्णा. मृग तृष्णा का क्या मतलब होता है? मृग तृष्णा होता है, मृग मतलब डियर, तृष्णा मतलब उसकी हैंकरिंग या उसकी सर्च. व्हाट इज द डियर सर्चिंग फॉर? देयर इज अ डियर, like a musk deer. When he is living in the forest, he thinks, he smells this aroma, very nice aroma that's coming. ठीक है, वो कस्तूरी की स्मेल होती है, उसको कस्तूरी की स्मेल आ रही है, and he's looking everywhere, he's running everywhere, this kasturi deer, this musk, looking for this fragrance. Okay, he's not able to find this fragrance. In this search of this fragrance, he falls down a mountain. ये स्टोरी आती है उपनिषद्स में. He falls down a cliff and he's about to die. When he's about to die, the deer suddenly realizes that the fragrance all this time was coming from my body. It was coming from my umbilical area, from my nabhi. The fragrance was all this time coming from him only, and he was running here and there in search of that fragrance, and he died in this process. This is called Mrig Trishna. This is the Kasturi Mrig's story, who's just running around, the musk deer. So this is how the nature of happiness of this material world is, that we are looking outside, but that happiness will not satisfy us. We talked about various aspects why it won't satisfy us, because it is temporary, it is very flickering, it is very superficial, it is just pleasure, yeah, just comfort. Okay. So the spiritualist, the person who is in the mode of goodness, you're trying to advance themselves from the mode of goodness, knows that the deep happiness, the real, genuine, profound happiness lies within us. It is not an this happiness is not an outward stimulation of senses, or not an outward circumstances, not an outward situation of anything. It is within us. So that is why the spiritualists, they are not trying to accumulate, they're not indulging in too much sense gratification. That is why they observe fasting, कि बहुत ज़्यादा हमें अपने senses को agitate नहीं करना है. क्यों? क्योंकि by controlling curtailing our senses, actually, by not agitating our senses, by not creating very complicated circumstances around us, we can feel that deeper bliss that we are otherwise missing. Okay. So that is one point I wanted to discuss. Whatever physical comforts या things से जो हमको लगता है happiness आएगी, then that's not true. The things ultimately can bring misery, and the happiness is not incremental with them, है ना, ever increasing नहीं. हमने बात की ना, it is not incremental. It will finish at some point or may even bring misery. So that is one point. Now you're all spiritualists, you're all know this point already. That is why you've come here looking for something deeper, more fulfilling, more longer lasting, right? So uske liye Krishna has given some sutras throughout Bhagavad Gita. पूरी Bhagavad Gita अगर कोई अच्छे से समझ ले, उसके principles apply करे life में, ठीक है? Then you can get happiness. मैं आपको example देती हूँ इस बात का to prove this point. Take a simple verse like 2.47. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. We understand that by this verse that we are not, we cannot decide the outcome, right? We cannot decide our result, and we are not the we are just in control of, we can just do our action, right? Does this verse, knowing this principle, brings you happiness? Yes, because we know that we are not in the control of result at all. So I don't need to be anxious about anything. I don't need to worry so much. Suddenly the weight goes away. I'm just in control of this activity. जैसे कि हम कल book distribution पे गए. Okay, all I can do is to step out and try to distribute. I don't need to worry whether this person will take it or not. I don't need to worry about that because this result is not because of my lacking that I could not give the book to him. Somebody might think I could not give the book, so he will take it on his own ego. He may get into arguments, he may become very offended, and he may become very anxious. Oh, मैं तो कोई book नहीं दे पाया, right? That will bring anxiety. But the person who's just doing it with a seva bhav, with this sense of sacrifice, with just embracing this adventure of book distribution, just engaging himself in this seva, he will enjoy more. So who is enjoying more? The one who's attached to the outcome or the one who's not attached? The one who's not attached to the outcome, right? So in this way, just by learning this one sutra, simple verse 2.47, you get happiness. So I'm just proving to you how Bhagavad Gita will give you happiness. Take another verse. Krishna says in 2.17, Apuryamanam machala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantimapnoti na kama kami. He gives an analogy here कि हमारा जो mind है, it's like a ocean और उसमें बड़ी सारी desires आती रहती हैं. समुद्र मापा प्रविशंति सर्वे, जैसे इतनी सारी रिवर्स एक समुद्र में एंटर करती हैं, वैसे हमारे में भी बहुत सारी डिजायर्स एंटर करती रहती हैं. लेकिन शांति तब मिलती है जब हम उनमें से कुछ डिजायर्स को हटा देते हैं, उनको कुछ परे कर देते हैं. वी कंट्रोल आवर डिजायर्स, वी ट्राई नॉट टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू ईच एंड एवरी डिजायर. स शांति मापनोति न काम कामी, जो काम कामी है, जो कामी व्यक्ति है, जो हर डिजायर को रिस्पॉन्ड कर रहा है, एवरी अर्ज ऑफ हिज सेंसेस, एवरी अर्ज ऑफ हिज माइंड को रिस्पॉन्ड कर रहा है, that person will not get shanti, peace और happiness. अब इस बात से आपको अगर आप कंट्रोल कर लो कुछ डिजायर्स, सभी डिजायर्स के पीछे नहीं भागो, तो हैप्पीनेस मिलेगी, राइट? क्योंकि आप एंशियस नहीं हो, आप भाग नहीं रहे इधर उधर, और जब वो चीजें पूरी नहीं हो रही, यू नो, कृष्णा has told me, curtail some desires, don't respond to every desire, then you will find peace, right? Now take another verse, 5.29. Krishna says, भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोक महेश्वरं सुहृद सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति. कि now understand this principle. Whoever knows that I am the Supreme Lord, I am your friend, I am the enjoyer, proprietor of everything, that person will get shanti, that person will get happiness. So now this makes you understand I am not the enjoyer. तो जो भी result आ रहा है, जो हुआ वो भी कृष्णा से हुआ, जो नहीं हुआ वो भी कृष्णा ने नहीं करने दिया. So you have nothing to gain or lose. He gave everything, he took away everything because it belonged to him. जो भी मेरे पास था, अगर वो चला गया तो I don't need to lament, right? Because he was the proprietor, he was the enjoyer, everything belonged to him, he's the Supreme Lord, he's my best friend. If he took away something, that means there is something good in this for me. He took it away, so nothing to lose. So when you have that concept, oh, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, I don't have anything to lose here in this world, right? Then that gives you a deeper sense of satisfaction, or no? You're suddenly free from lamentation, right? क्योंकि कुछ चला गया तो lamentation नहीं होगी, कोई desires, बहुत ज्यादा आपकी wants नहीं है, क्योंकि कृष्णा ने बोला कि बहुत सारी desires नहीं होनी चाहिए, तो आपकी hankering भी नहीं है, आपको restlessness भी नहीं है, because you're not anxious to maintain anything, because Krishna is the maintainer, he says, right? So हमें क्या प्रॉब्लम होती है, हैप्पीनेस हमारी कैसे जाती है? पहले हमें कोई चीज चाहिए, we have hankering for that thing, like I want a car. So first I'm hankering for the car, I'm working really hard to get that car, collecting money, all these things. So first I'm not happy because I do not have the car. Then when I get the car, I am restless in maintaining it. I'm worried that somebody might hit it or kuch ho jayega ya kuch, right? So I'm anxious about it in maintaining it. Then when I lost it, let's say something happens, then I'm lamenting, I'm complaining when I lose it. So in all three, जब वो नहीं थी तब भी दुख, जब वो थी तो उसको मेंटेन करने का, उसको संभालने का, वो चली ना जाए इस बात का डर का दुख, all this दुख. और जब वो चली गई तो फिर दुखा कि चली क्यों गई. So in every situation, we are not really feeling the satisfaction, the deep sense of bliss or happiness. So the intelligent person knows all these aspects of material world. He applies all these sutras, all these principles given in Bhagavad Gita, and he feels the deeper happiness. These are just some examples I've given from Bhagavad Gita, but there are so many examples why, if we follow these principles given in Bhagavad Gita, live a life of sacrifice, cultivate those higher principles of gratitude to Lord and to other people around us, appreciate them, curtail our desires, curtail our wants, differentiate between what is my want and what is my need. Need को पूरा कर सकते हो, लेकिन wants को पूरा करने की ज़्यादा ज़रूरत नहीं है. Curtail your desires. Understand that if Krishna gave something, it was his will. If he took away something, it was his will, because he's the proprietor and enjoyer of everything. If something did not happen as per your expectation, also because it was not in my control, I'm not the controller. So all those things give a very deep sense of satisfaction. And so this is what the spiritualists try to follow, all these principles of Bhagavad Gita. I'll pause here. I think we're running out of time soon. So anybody else wants to ask any questions, share anything? So basically the entire Bhagavad Gita is teaching us to be happy. And these 5 verses are just, summary, but the whole Bhagavad Gita is taking us towards happiness only. And not just sukha or dukha, but actually way above that, the anand. इसलिए जो devotees of the Lord होते हैं, जैसे कि कुंती महारानी का example आता है, they are not, even though outside से लगता है कि बहुत दुख है शायद इनकी life में, but it's not, they are so connected to the Lord that they don't feel the discomforts that come from outside. One more point I've remembered about sukha and dukha in this material world. In this world, the happiness is really absence of pain. ऐसा describe करते हैं कि बहुत बार जो सुख मिलता है, that is absence of pain. जैसे कि किसी का सर अगर पानी में डाल दिया जाए, है ना, तो उसको बहुत suffocated और feel होगा, like he's about to die, right? बहुत anxious, fearful situation है. Then सर पानी में से बाहर निकाल लो, so suddenly he will get life back, है ना? तो जब सर बाहर आता है पानी से, वो जो खुशी feel होती है, that is compared to the material happiness. कि just absence of distress is called material happiness. So it is not the ideal type of happiness. Just absence of pain should not be dukha, should not be sukha, right? There has to be something deeper than that. और एक और analogy आती है to describe how happiness in this world gives misery. जैसे कि कोई blade है, blade पे कोई शहद लगाए, और उसको चाटे, तो क्या होगा? थोड़ा taste आएगा शहद का, लेकिन खून भी निकलेगा, right? You will bleed, your tongue will get cut, you will hurt for a long time. The taste of that shahad was flickering, but you will hurt for much longer. So that is also the nature of happiness in this material world, that it brings very short-term happiness but long-term misery. Can one of the kids or anybody quote a verse from 5th chapter that explains this point about temporary nature of this happiness? And intelligent people do not indulge in this, engage in this. Yes, Avni.
5.21, I think, the yehi samspashacha poga dukhayo naya evate adiyantavanta konteya nate shuramate buddha.
Yeah, 5.22. 22. Very bold. Can you say the meaning in your paraphrase? The meaning?
Basically, like, everything in this world is like temporary, and like the devotees of Krishna know that, so they don't really like indulge in it.
Yeah. यही संस्पर्श जा भोगा, भोग से जो आता है happiness, वो बहुत ही temporary होती है, इसलिए intelligent people do not engage in this. एक आपको मैं example बताती हूँ, एक story बताती हूँ. It's a small, not a story, just something that comes very often in spiritual circles. So there was a man who was being chased by a lion. Okay, in the jungle. He was being chased. Lion is running after him. So he climbs a tree. The man climbs a tree and he hangs by the branch. He gets hold of the branch of a tree and hangs by that. ठीक है, वो पेड़ की नहीं, पेड़ पे चढ़ा नहीं, पेड़ की टहनी से लटक गया to escape from the lion. ठीक है, so imagine, create this scene in your head. The man is hanging from the branch and नीचे बैठा है lion. ठीक है, lion is waiting for him. Now suddenly the man sees that there are two rats, a black and a white rat. Imagine this scene: black and a white rat gnawing at that same branch on which the man is hanging. They're chewing that branch. ठीक है, वो branch को cut कर रहे हैं. Rat के teeth बहुत sharp होते हैं. They can cut through that wood. So they are gnawing at that branch. ठीक है. So वो डर जाता है. ठीक है. But suddenly he feels ऊपर से कुछ बूंदे उसका मुंह पे पड़ती हैं. ठीक है. And he on his mouth and he licks it and it was honey. And he realizes there is a beehive up there. उसमें से कुछ बूंद थोड़े थोड़े टाइम इंटरवल पे ड्रिप हो रही है on his tongue and he's tasting that nectar. तो सोचता है वाओ, ये तो बहुत बढ़िया है. ठीक है. Now in tasting this nectar every few minutes he's looking up to this. अब आएगा, देखते रहते हैं, बूंद गिरेगी. हाँ, he keeps waiting. Now he forgets कि the black and the white mouse were eating away at the branch. Now pause the scene. Pause. ठीक है, आपने scene imagine किया था. Pause the scene in your head. What is the ending of this story? Is it a good end, bad end? What is going to happen? Can somebody tell the end of the story? Yes, whether you want to say the end.
He got so distracted by the honey that now the rats are going to chew it through and then he's going to fall right into the lion's mouth.
Yes. वो भूल गया कि the rats were, वो पूरा focus हो गया on the honey bees, on the hive, कि अभी थोड़ी थोड़ी देर में ये गिरता रहेगा मेरे mouth में, and he's just tasting that nectar, और भूल गया कि नीचे lion खड़ा है और जब ये branch टूटेगी तो मैं उसके mouth में गिरूंगा. So this is the position of a conditioned soul. This I think this story can summarize. This is the end. Will come to an end. That what we are doing is periodically we are getting some happiness in this material world, some small pleasures that are very small, very very flickering, very temporary. But we are, and they are coming off their own nature. हमें नहीं कुछ उसके लिए करना. It's not like the man is making the honey. Honey अपने आप गिर रहा है. वो अपने आप आता रहेगा. लेकिन the two rats represent the day and night. The black and the white rat represent the day and night. The time factor that is chewing away at our life. तो हमारी लाइफ धीरे धीरे खत्म हो रही है, और जो काल है, काल शेर की तरह मुंह फैलाए बैठा है और हम कभी भी उसके मुंह में गिर सकते हैं. पर हम भूल गए कि मृत्यु कभी भी आ सकती है, कभी भी वो टहनी टूट सकती है, and the time will end, will run out of time, and we are just looking at this, enjoying थोड़ा थोड़ा जो बूंद आती है नेक्टर की, which is not very consequential, which is not very substantial, which is not very deep, which is very superficial and not worth our time actually. So this is the nature of a conditioned soul. This is what most jivas are doing. But you all are spiritualists and you realize this. So please engage in reading Bhagavad Gita, understand the deeper principles. Krishna is giving many sutras of happiness scattered throughout Bhagavad Gita. And we just covered just a few sutras, like not having any expectations of outcome or results, giving up the results to Krishna, understanding you're not the enjoyer, you're not the proprietor, he's the maintainer, he's your best friend, whatever he does he will be for your good. There's just some small sutras to curtail your desires, not engaging in sense gratification too much. Those sutras he has given many times in Bhagavad Gita, and they all bring you to the spiritual happiness. So spiritual happiness, bliss is like an inside job. It is not something that can become had from outside. You have to have this this want, this desire for nourishing yourself spiritually every day, and that's why we chant the names of the Lord and read and associate with devotees and eat prasadam to keep our spiritual hankering more and material desires less. That's where I'll stop. Thank you so much for joining. Anybody has any questions, comments, realizations, reflections they want to share? Rekha Mataji, Hema Mataji, Hemlata Mataji, thank you for joining. I just saw you were there. Amrendra Prabhu, Ravi Prabhu, please add and correct anything you'd like to share. Okay, then we'll stop here. Mancha kautarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Gurve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Bhaktaya Namo Namah. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.